I just forgot to put it on slideshow mode. Welcome back, 6th grade world history students. This is Mr. Miller once again. I'm also going to be introducing Chapter 3, Early Humans, Lesson 2. Lesson 2, we're going to be looking at the agricultural revolution. You may ask yourself, why is this important? Why are we talking about this, Mr. Miller? Well, that's because the agricultural revolution allowed people to set up permanent settlements. No longer were they nomads having to move from place to place to follow the animals and the food sources. Now they could live in one permanent settlement full time. All right, last lesson, in lesson 1, we were looking at the Paleolithic age. Now we're going to be looking at the Neolithic age, Neolithic times. Neo means new. Just like paleo meant old, neo means new. And lithic, of course, still means stone. So Neolithic is the new stone age. It began about 8,000 BC and lasted until around 4,000 BC. So roughly about 4,000 years. So remember, think about our definitions of time. That's a very long period of time. A millennium was 1,000 years, so you could say it's about 4 millennium. And as you can see, we have a timeline to sort of show you with some important dates. We have the date of the Old Stone Age, the Paleolithic time beginning. We have some dates about ice ages. And then at around 8,000 BC, or a little bit before, we say the New Stone Age begins, the Neolithic agricultural revolution. And then we on the closest date we have on the timeline to year 1, the birth of Jesus, is first civilizations emerge. So take a moment to look at that timeline and look at those dates.
Coming out of the Ice Age, as the glaciers that covered most of the Earth gradually began to melt and move back towards the poles, more and more of land is exposed for people to move into, which is going to have a big impact on human population growth. So like I said, as the climate gradually warms, the ice melts, more land is open, and this is fertile land, meaning that soil is rich, it's good for planting crops, it's good for growing orchards. And these humans who had previously wandered constantly, always chasing the animals for food, always chasing wild nuts and berries, learn skills, the farming and agriculture skills and the domestication skills to finally settle in one place. Agriculture is probably a word you've heard. It's a fancy way of saying farming. But domestication is a word you may not know. And that's when animals are tamed for human use. You see it even today. If you have a pet dog or a pet cat at home, that animal has been domesticated. It's tame. They don't hurt humans. They're calm. They're not like the wild dogs and cats that existed thousands of years ago that would have bit your hand off as soon as they were hungry. You can also domesticate horses and cows to do work or produce milk for your community. As these settlements grow and become better at domesticating animals and farming, they reach a pretty good problem, which is they have a surplus of food. And this surplus in food allows the population growth to just explode. Mr. Miller had mentioned that these nomadic tribes typically were very small, 20 to 30 people, because that was all they could feed. Well, now when you have acres and acres and acres of plants growing, and you have dozens and dozens of cows and different domesticated animals, we're going to start seeing villages into the hundreds and then thousands. And then before long, we see what we would call a large city of tens of thousands of people living in one place. If you take a look here at this map, it's focused in on Africa, Europe, Asia, and then you can see the Americas down in the small box in the corner. But if you look down at the key, you'll see how agriculture spread across the globe. It wasn't happening all in one place. If you focus on the red areas in the Middle East, near India, and in China, they were farming 5,000 BC. So 7,000 years ago, they began putting seeds in the ground and producing food. And then if you look at the color key, you'll see that it spread to other parts of the globe slowly over thousands of years. You can see the most recent people, the light green, which includes most of Europe, most of Asia, the parts of Africa. They only settled down and began farming 500 BC, which to us seems like a long time ago, but in the grand scheme of things, isn't that long ago.
All right, so we want to talk about life in the Neolithic age and kind of what did that look like. You've already heard all about that, and that's what we've been talking about. So I want to ask you, why might a Neolithic village be surrounded by thick walls? What could be the purpose for that? So think about the things that you've heard and think about what you know about a village and safety, and tell me why you might be surrounded by thick walls. Here's another map that just kind of shows you all the places where farming developed, and not just where we've been talking about in the east of Africa and moving toward the Middle East. There, we shows you all the other places around the world where it did. But your hot question, remember, why might a Neolithic village be surrounded by walls? Remember, you want to answer with 2 to 3 sentences. This one's kind of short, but three sentences is good. Stick with 3. Use as much vocabulary as you can and as many historical facts as you can. So pause it right now and do that. All right, so a little bit more about life in a Neolithic village. Once you have a steady food supply, that allows you to do so much more. Your population is going to grow because now babies can have lots of food. Women are healthier. They're able to have more successful pregnancies and have babies. More food than we need is being produced. We can trade that food now and spend time doing other things. So if we have enough food, we don't have to worry about where our next meal is coming from. I might could spend more time creating pottery, or I could spend more time fixing clothes. And then once I make a good clothing and I come up with a new way to keep us warm, maybe you do all the hunting and I trade food for clothes. And then we learn to trade and get what we need, and people are able to focus on other aspects that make life good and improve their quality of life, and not just have to wonder where their next meal is coming from. So that all works out really well for us. And so that surplus then allows for specialization or division of labor. Now we have people who make bricks and build buildings, and we have pottery. We're going to have people who herd animals and become experts at that. We're going to have people who are experts at making shoes and making places to store grains and things like that, and like the storehouse picture that we see here. So it's going to lead to a much more thriving, exciting society than just having to scrounge and scavenge for our food.
Okay, the end of the Neolithic Age. So, during the late Neolithic Age, workers in some regions began to work with metal, including copper, to make tools. Craftspeople in Western Asia discovered that mixing copper and tin created bronze, which was stronger than copper. It became widely used between 3000 and 1200 BC, a period known as the Bronze Age. In your vocabulary, you have a term called metallurgy. This is where that comes from. It is working with those metals, the copper, the tin, the bronze. Because the specialization of labor had developed, we then start to see these craftspeople making different things. So the specialization of labor plays into this a lot. Here we have some pictures of them working with their Neolithic tools. Okay. Next, civilizations emerge. So what you're going to do here is you can pause the video if you want, but you're going to fill in each term. So it says cities and government, so you need to fill in the term government, religions, and then you need to fill in social, and structure's already there, and then you have writing and fill in art. Outside of each bubble, you need to draw a picture representing this concept. These are very important concepts. This is what happens when you see People settle, a population grows, you have a surplus, it leads to specialization of labor. You are going to start to see civilizations emerge. Cities and governments have to form to take care of the surplus. Religions begin to come out. You start to see a social structure, who's very important in that civilization, who's not as important. And then you're going to have some type of writing and arts because they've got to have record keeping. They got to know what's coming in and out of their civilization. So draw a picture to represent each one of those. And that's all for me, folks. Bye.